This is Matador News, and these are today's headlines. Protesters are in front of the Supreme Court in anticipation of DACA argument, and raging brush fires in Australia are destroying property outside of Sydney. Also, the highly anticipated Disney Plus release was anything but magical.
Hello and welcome to Matador News. I'm Brittany Smith.
And I'm Barros.
DACA rallies have finally hit the nation's capital after a tour of protests around the country. They're rallying today in front of the Supreme Court as it hears arguments on the Trump administration's decision to end DACA.
And that is not the only thing that I'm willing to do. I have fasted for DACA. Be all right. We gonna be all right.
Former President Barack Obama introduced the executive order back in 2012, providing illegal immigrants an easier pathway to citizenship. But plans to get rid of DACA were introduced by President Trump in 2017, and Congress failed to extend Obama's executive order in 2018. Now DACA recipients face cancellation of the program by the Supreme Court. President Trump took to Twitter to give his opinion, saying DACA recipients are no longer angels. Some are very tough, hardened criminals. And President Obama had no legal right to sign the order. But Trump did say if the Supreme Court overturns DACA, he will make a deal with the Democrats to allow DACA recipients to stay. Now students across Los Angeles have planned a walkout in support of DACA. Let's go to the newsroom with Matador News reporter Georgia Rios with information on the student walkout happening here at CSUN.
In the greater Los Angeles County, DACA is protecting around 80,000 young people from deportation. With demonstrations and protesting happening around the country, hundreds of students took to the halls and quads at Cal State Northridge University to show their support for these undocumented people, many of whom are students.
So they're a big part of the CSUN community here, and they're a big part of the American community in general. So it's really, really important to us that they stay here at CSUN. A lot of us grew up with them. You know, they came here as children and they didn't know that they were undocumented until it was time to get a job or get a driver's license. So that's really heartbreaking for a lot of us that have been growing up with these types of students.
The university sent out an email saying they are committed to educating, supporting, and protecting all students regardless of immigration status.
So it's not just affecting people in California, it's happening nationwide, and that's what we want to stop because they have every right to be here just like we do. We're just so fortunate to be born here, and it's not fair that just because they happen to be born somewhere else means that they don't have an opportunity here. That's what we're trying to do today.
Students say they hope this march will help bring more awareness to the problem and highlight the difficulties of undocumented students across the country. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Georgia. The Supreme Court says it won't hear an appeal from the Remington Arms Company trying to block a lawsuit from the families who lost children in the 2012 Sandy Hook school massacre. In 2014, the family sued the gun maker, saying it marketing influenced the shooter by selling Remington rifle as a weapon to be used against humans. The Connecticut Supreme Court says the family members of the 20 children killed are entitled to prove their allegations against Remington. The court's move may also motivate more lawsuits from victims of the Sandy Hook shooting and other mass shootings.
The president's impeachment inquiry will go live for the public to see this week. Public hearings are scheduled for Wednesday and Friday. George Kent, Assistant Secretary of State, and Bill Taylor, former ambassador to Ukraine, will testify together tomorrow morning at 7 California time. Taylor's recent closed-door testimony was helpful to the investigation. He corroborated many of the claims made by the original whistleblower. Taylor gave the witness to the events regarding the withholding of U.S. military aid to Ukraine and the July 25th phone call between Trump and Vladimir Zelensky. Kent told lawmakers that Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, had a campaign of lies. Another former Ukraine ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, will testify on Friday. The proceedings will allow each lawmaker 5 minutes of questions. Democratic Chairman Adam Schiff and Republican Congressman Devin Nunes will have expanded questioning time, up to 45 minutes. Republicans control the Senate and remain strongly opposed to impeachment. A 2/3 majority vote is needed to convict and remove the president from office.
The United States had a record 69,550 children in custody this year. Government data says most of them have been deported or reunited with their family. 4,000 are still in custody. Pediatrician says parent-child relationships must be stable and responsive to promote healthy brain architecture, so this experience may not cause as much trauma to older children and teens. But young children have a great risk of suffering deep traumas. The U.S. government is being sued for hundreds of millions of dollars by families who says their children were harmed. Last week, a federal judge ordered the government to provide treatment to families affected by separations.
Firefighters in southeastern Australia are battling nearly 12 emergency-level blazes across New South Wales. There are a total of 85 fires burning across New South Wales and Queensland, half that are out of control. Firefighters have been injured on the front lines, including an emergency worker who suffered a fractured arm and ribs. Fire Service Commissioner says the danger is far from done and to remain vigilant. The damage has been significant. 3 people have died, more than 100 homes lost, and an estimated 350 koalas have died.
Former Bolivian President Evo Morales has landed in Mexico, where he was granted asylum by the government after massive protests over alleged election fraud in his own country. Morales has called his forced resignation a coup. He says it was organized by his opposition's leaders with the help of policy on Sunday. On Sunday, the Organization of American States said they had found clear manipulation during their audit of the election which Morales won. Morales agreed to hold fresh elections after the report, but runner-up Carlos Mesa said the former president should not stand in any new vote. After the chief of Bolivia's armed forces urged Morales to step down, he resignated along with the vice president, the Senate leader, and the House of Deputies leader. This brings Janine Áñez to temporarily take over as interim president.
The Israeli Defense Forces and Prime Minister's office says a senior Islamic Jihad commander in Gaza has been targeted by an Israeli airstrike. Baha Abu Elata and his wife were both killed. 2 hours later, sirens sounded in central and southern Israel, warning citizens of incoming rockets from Gaza. Gaza retaliated, firing nearly 200 rockets into Israel. Officials say 2 Israeli men are wounded, and 3-story building in Damascus was destroyed. An Israeli military spokesman says Abu Elata has been responsible for the recent attacks in southern Israel, and that Israel has been waiting for the right time to fire back.
The Taliban in Afghanistan have reached an agreement for a trade-off. The Taliban will release 2 American university teachers. One is a U.S. citizen in exchange for 3 Taliban members currently in prison. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani says the prisoner exchange would free the 2 professors, Kevin King and Timothy Weeks, who were kidnapped from the university in Kabul in August 2016. The Taliban prisoners were kept in Bagram prison, where high-profile prisoners are kept. The 3 Taliban members were flown to Qatar in a special plane. In September, Trump said he was canceling peace negotiations with the Taliban after the U.S. service member was killed in Kabul in a suicide attack. Taliban have been in a war with U.S. and NATO forces in Afghanistan since 2001.
A San Diego State University student has died after a fraternity event. 19-year-old Dylan Hernandez was admitted into the hospital on Thursday, the morning after the event. On Friday, University President Adela de la Torre suspended 14 fraternities under the Interfraternity Council. One witness says Hernandez fell off his bunk bed that night, but appeared to be asleep. His friends helped him back in the bed. The next morning, he was foaming at the mouth. Education attorney Bob Ottley says fraternities need to do better.
What we need to do out of this scenario, however it turns out, is to get the California State University system and the regents who operate the University of California to ban alcohol, first in all fraternities, just like it is in sororities.
The police are still investigating the exact nature of the fraternity event and exactly how Hernandez was injured. Now let's hear from Sofia Gutierrez in the newsroom on the recent events at San Diego State University.
Thanks, Brittany. As we just heard, San Diego State University fraternities are under fire after a 19-year-old freshman died after a fraternity event. We talked to CSUN students to see what their thoughts were on the matter.
I mean, I've heard a lot of rumors from a lot of fraternities. They kind of seem like they get away with a lot of things because they roll in with the cash and all that. Feel like if the school really did care, they would start paying less attention to people stealing things on campus and the actual real problems with like groups like sports groups and fraternities and anything. I mean,
I don't know if it happened because they were hazing people, but maybe there needs to be like a mother kind of a figure or mentor that oversees all the fraternity houses. Maybe someone that goes in and checks in on them. Maybe a lot of underage drinking that shouldn't have happened.
Throughout the years, we've seen fraternities under scrutiny due to various accounts of misconduct like rape and deaths. Many say universities have to discipline these institutions for their wrongdoings. But advocates of the Greek system say they should want to foster an environment where higher ideals can be promoted through the history of Greek organizations. Back to you in the studio.
Disney started its new streaming service, Disney Plus, this morning, but fans were unable to connect with it. Fans were greeted with Wreck-It Ralph holding a Wi-Fi signal. Down Detector, a website that focuses on online outages, says more than 7,300 people reported the problem. Within 2 hours, it went up to 8,500. A Disney Plus spokesperson says the demand for Disney Plus has exceeded expectations and the company is working to resolve the issue. The streaming service will cost between $5.99 and $15.99 a month and features Disney favorites like Star Wars and animated movies as well as new content. Milk producers Dean Foods has filed for bankruptcy. The 94-year-old company says its sales plummeted because Americans are drinking less milk. The company's well-known products are Dairy Pure, Organic Valley, and Land O'Lakes. They filed a Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection that will keep the company running, while it reorganizes its debt and figures out how to fund workers' pensions. Over the past 4 years, cow milk consumption has been declining. Consumers are looking for less sugary or plant-based alternatives. Sales for milk alternatives are expected to top $18 billion by this year. Juul announces it will lay off 650 people in a $1 billion cost-cutting plan. Juul has stopped all marketing efforts since regulators claimed the company was promoting its products to teenagers. Earlier this year, Juul was hiring 300 people per month, right before news of health problems associated with vaping broke. Almost 40 people have died nationwide so far. Marlboro owner says it's taking $4.5 billion write down on its investment in Juul. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has ruled to remove flavored nicotine vaping from the U.S. market. Let's go to Daniel Ramirez with more on vaping, health, controversy, and other health news.
Thanks, Karina. Detroit doctors at the Henry Ford Health System performed the first double lung transplant in U.S. They say vaping sent the male patient to the hospital after severely damaging his lungs. They say the patient is asking doctors to warn others about the risk that comes with vaping, but wants to remain anonymous. Vaping-related injuries have since risen since November 5th. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention are working closely with local health departments and Food and Drug Administration to pinpoint the cause of illnesses. The latest suspect is a vitamin E additive to many vaping products. Former President Jimmy Carter is in recovery at the Emory University Hospital in Atlanta after receiving surgery this morning for a subdermal hematoma. A series of fails caused blood to collect and put pressure around his brain. Doctors report there were no complications with the procedure. The 95-year-old is expected to leave the hospital in a few days. Recovery is likely to continue in Carter's home. He is the longest living president in the U.S. Now back to Karina with the recent on entertainment.
Chinese team Fun Plus Phoenix takes home the annual League of Legends World Championship again. The team defeated its European rival G2 Esports. The event took place this past weekend in Paris. League of Legends attracted 100 million viewers from across the globe and is one of the biggest esport events. More than 100 teams are competing in 13 regional leagues across the globe. Fun Plus Phoenix is a new group that formed last year. The team won $2.5 million in a prize and a 70-pound trophy with a case designed by Louis Vuitton. Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak says the worst has passed after undergoing successful emergency surgery. He tweeted he is so grateful for all the good wishes during his recent illness. He says he will be back to work this week. Wheel of Fortune co-host Mona White says she's filling in the blank until he returns and they'll be solving puzzles in no time. The show is the longest-running syndicated game series in the U.S. with 7,000 episodes taped and aired. Let's throw it back to Daniel with the latest on sports.
Week 10 of the NFL has come to a close, and the last undefeated team has fallen.
Oh, he punched at it!
49ers rookie place kicker Chase McLaughlin missed the go-ahead 47-yard attempt after having sent the game to overtime with this 46-yard attempt as time ran out. The Seahawks, led by their MVP candidate Russell Wilson, rallied for one last chance to get into field goal range in the dying seconds of overtime, all leading to this 42-yard attempt by Jason Myers, handing Seattle a 27-24 victory as time expired and San Francisco's first loss of the season. The Seahawks take the momentum as they head into their bye week, while the Niners get ready to host the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. The Clippers played their first of 5 straight home games hosting the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard faced off against his former team for the first time, after having helped the Raptors to their first championship in franchise history. The Clippers showed the potential of their defensive efforts late in the game, holding Toronto to just 10 points in the final quarter. Veteran six-man Lou Will led the way in scoring with 21 points off the bench, while the Claws struggled on the scoring end with only 12 points, yet finished just 1 assist shy of a triple-double, as the Clippers took the win 98-88. Both teams now sit at 7-3 as the Clippers face a 2-game road trip and expect to have star forward Paul George debut on Thursday versus the Pelicans. Now back to Bea for the weather.
Today in Northridge is currently 76 degrees, with the high will be 85 and the low will be 53. The rest of the week is going to be between 52 and 88 degrees. Until Friday, it will be partly cloudy, but the weekend will be sunny. The South Coast Air Quality Management District says the air quality will be between moderate and unhealthy in the San Fernando Valley. People with respiratory sensitivity should not go outside unless they have to.
75 years ago, it disappeared. Now, private explorers have found the USS Grayback submarine. The World War II Navy vessel sailed out of Pearl Harbor on January 28, 1944. A Japanese bomb struck and sunk the Grayback. 80 sailors were lost on the mission. Their families now have closure after the submarine was retrieved about 100 miles off the coast of Okinawa. On behalf of all of us at Matador News, I'm Brittany Smith.
I'm Bea Barros.
I'm Karina Gutierrez.
And I'm Daniel Ramirez. Thanks for watching. See you next week.